Hey, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. It's quite dense. It's worth reading on your own. But ProPublica did a really interesting study of the richest Americans. And what they looked at is how much in taxes the richest Americans paid relative to how much their wealth grew during the same time period. Now, a lot of this has to do with unrealized gains, and I'm going to explain that in a moment. But this is one of the ways in which the rich really benefit, the super, super, super rich. I'm not talking about people who make 500K a year here. I'm talking about the super, super rich. In the United States, when you have an increase in net worth, this could be because you earned money by working, or you might have an increase in net worth because assets you hold increased in value. If you hold a bunch of stocks, $1 million in stocks, and they go up and they're worth $2 million in stocks, your net worth just went up by $1 million. You don't owe any taxes other than on the dividends, depending on what type of account those funds or stocks are held in, right? So, but the gist of it is you don't owe any taxes on that gain of $1 million in net worth until you realize the gain by selling those stocks. So what you've seen over the last, from 2014 to 2018, is that the 25 richest Americans saw their collective net worth go up by $400 billion, but they only paid $13.6 billion in federal income taxes. So that is 3.4%. Now, I know many people are going to say, David, hold on. They didn't have a taxable event. A lot of that growth in net worth came from they held assets and the assets went up in value. If I have a $2 million house and the market explodes and it's worth $4 million, my net worth went up $2 million. I don't owe any taxes on that. Okay, my real estate taxes might go up a little if the assessment goes up, right? There's some details. That's how it works, David. I understand. But the analysis is an interesting one nonetheless, which is when you were already very wealthy, you were able to increase your net worth with very little tax exposure. For the average person, if you make $50,000 a year and you get a raise to $75,000 a year, that's a nice raise. That increase in the net worth you could have by saving your additional salary is going to be dragged down by the fact that you're paying income taxes on that additional salary. So the investigation is an interesting one because it exposes the tax on net worth growth, which is really, really low. Now, am I proposing a particular change in policy as a result of this? No, I have other segments on that. But it's a very interesting way to look at how by not realizing gains and by having assets that grow that are disproportionately already held by the very rich, you can have a net worth grow with extremely low drag from taxes, tax drag as it is often called. And it is another one of the ways in which just increasing income taxes, which is often what the discussion is, it's what we're talking about now with Joe Biden, does very, very little to actually capture the vast majority of the benefit to the ultra, ultra, ultra rich. We're talking about multi-billionaires here. This is a very different thing than someone with a small business like Joe the Plumber's, which supposedly made $250,000 a year, but didn't actually. Very, very different situation. If you've been watching the show, you've probably heard me talk about how much I love my Helix mattress. Well, I was really excited to hear that Helix has launched a new company called Allform, which makes premium, customizable sofas and chairs with the same level of quality and comfort that I expect from these guys. And Allform is one of our sponsors today. They're giving you 20% off at allform.com/Pakman. They actually sent me a couch, which I put in my living room at home. It's now my favorite piece of furniture in the house. It took me just minutes to set it up. It's solidly built. It's huge. It's roomy. It has a modern minimalist design, which I love, but it's also very comfortable. Fabric is soft. Clearly very high quality. It has become the focal point of my living room. Their prices are very reasonable. And when you get a new sofa or chair, you get 100 days to decide if you want to keep it. And the best part is everything comes with a lifetime warranty. Stop buying poorly made furniture. Go to customize your own Allform sofa or chair right now and get 20% off your entire order when you get there by going to allform.com/Pakman. I've also put the link right underneath this video.